There's just I just point out something that some of us don't know. In my work in ministry and in I did come across somebody who was also a doctor, and she's also a Jew, amazingly enough. But our father was a warlock. I don't know if you know what a warlock is. So it's the opposite of a hierarchy man into witchcraft. All those things. And I'm not talking about an African person. I'm talking about an English person. English stroke Jewish person. And through that, she was sharing with us, one of the informations that she got to know. And that information was that in the UK, that's about how many years ago now? We're talking about maybe probably about 17, 16 years ago. And she was letting us understand that, are we aware that as at that time, every Friday night, you had witches cults that came together in the UK, and I'm not talking about we think that happens in Africa. In the UK, her father was a warlock, so she had that information, and they came together every Friday night. Why did they come together? They did their rituals, they did their meetings, and their purpose was they bound themselves together to say that we must destroy marriage in this society. And we look at 18 years after, 17 years after now, we can see how marriage and how it is. So that's to let you know that the devil knows the roots of things. And that's why then he had focused that if he can do that damage to marriage, if he can do that damage, he knows that society will easily fall like a pack of cards, So it's just to let us understand that marriage is a serious business. And I love what Sam and Caroline mentioned, and that is the spiritual aspect, making sure that prayer, having that spiritual guidance is very vital. But also, like what Caroline said, the spiritual guidance, putting it into a practical, because that's one of the things that the church has a responsibility to. When the church is it's called the foundation and the pillar of truth. And that is our responsibility as ministers of the gospel to practicalize what we have in the spirit. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Jesus was very practical, and that's why he had a lot of parables. He was able to practicalize, was able to bring the realities of the kingdom of God into parables, into stories in which people were able to understand. Even till today, when we read them, we're able to understand spiritual principles. Imagine if Jesus was just so very, in quotes, he just appeared and was illuminating all the time and was saying, this, and that's all he did, or just, and then expected everything. No, he didn't do that. He was practical. He came down to an understanding where people could understand, spiritual truths. He was able to break it down. And that's why you find that the disciples and those who followed him were able to understand. That's what I said. You can imagine when they wanted to arrest him. I mean, when the soldiers came back to those who sent them, they said, no man spoke like him. Why? Because he was able to break down things to such a simple way that even a child would understand the principles of the kingdom. That's an important aspect, which if you're a leader in this talk show, is an important aspect that you need to take back home, in making things practical. And that's where the mentorship is important. That's where, like I said before, doctors' ministry is very vital and very important.